So we're going to do 3 different assignments that are the review at the end of the chapter. Now, in previous years, kids decided that they preferred to do the review and then move on to the next chapter, which is really short. It's only a couple assignments, and then spend the rest of the year studying for the final. The other option is I can build a test for chapter 6, and we can test on chapter 6 and then study for the final and take the final. What do you guys prefer? Okay, so we'll do the review in 3 different chunks, and then we'll have a couple weeks to study for the final. Well, we're going to start, so we're going to do chapter 6 review today. And then it will probably take us a couple days to do it, and then starting on Monday, then we can do our, well, we got to do chapter 7. But chapter 7 is really short. It's only a couple assignments. All right. All right. So this is page 685, 1 through 20 all. This first assignment is pretty quick. So the sine of 30 is equal to what? The cosine of 60. So the thing you need to remember about co-functions, the sine of x is equal to the cosine of 90 minus x. And that's obvious because in a right triangle, if this is theta, the sine of theta is going to be a over b. That's a b. But the cosine of this angle is also a over b. Well, how does this angle and this angle compare? They're complementary. They add up to 90. So the sine of 30 is equal to the cosine of 90 minus 30, which is 60. And that's true with all the cofunctions. It's true of tangent. The tangent of 40 would be the cotangent of 90 minus 40, which is 50. Same with the secant and the cosecant. Okay? All right, so 1 through 6 are really easy. All right? 7 through 14, you're just going to simplify. Okay? And when you simplify, it's always going to turn into things like 0 or 1 or the sine or the tangent or something like that. Yes? Nope. Number 2 would be 90 minus a, sine of 90 minus a. Yeah, and the cofunction formulas are on your sheet. So let me see yours. So if you look, cofunctions, anybody see them? Oh, they're on the bottom right, but they're in radians. So the cofunctions are just 90 minus theta. So 7 through 14 are pretty simple. You just use the formulas on the sheet and simplify it, and you're always going to end up with something that's really simple, like the number 1 or the sine or something like that. Yeah. Okay. 15 through 19 are verifying. What are our verifying tricks? We use one of the identities. A lot of the times we use you substitute in the Pythagorean identities. Okay. We can factor difference of perfect squares. We can use the conjugate. We can find a common denominator. We can even split fractions. So if you had something like x plus 2 over 4, how do you split that? It's the opposite of finding a common denominator, essentially. It would be x over 4 plus 2 over 4, which becomes x over 4 plus 1/2. So that's another strategy. Okay, and we spent like a week on this, didn't we? Well, yeah, that's splitting. So now if you had x over 4 plus 1/2 and you wanted to find a common denominator, you could put it back together. And you simply try something, and if it doesn't work, you try something else. There are multiple ways to prove that these are true. Okay. So we're going to skip 21 through 26, and then we go on to the sum and difference identities. So number 27, is 7 pi over 12 on the circle? No. But let's convert 7 pi over 12 to degrees, because that makes more sense. So you times 7 over 12 by 180. What is that? What is 7/12 times 180? So for number 27, I want the cosine of 105. 105 is not on the circle. Can I create 105 by adding or subtracting two numbers that are on the circle? What would you use? Cosine of, you could do 135 minus 30, or 45 plus 60, or lots of other things. So if you look at the sum and difference formulas for the cosine, so these are on the right side near the top. The cosine of alpha minus beta is going to be the cosine of 135 times the cosine of 30, and then plus. Why is that one plus? Well, this is negative, so it's the bottom formula, which lines up with the plus. So sine 135, sine 30. Now, if I did it the other way, then I would have the cosine of 45 times the cosine of 60. Then what? Minus the sine of 45 times the sine of 60. And now, it doesn't matter which equation I solve. I'm going to end up with some version of root 2, root 6 over 4. And then this, you just don't know what the signs are. That's true for sine and cosine. Tangents, you have to do the sine version, and then you have to do the cosine version, and then you have to divide the two. Okay? And then 31, 32, 33, and 34, you're just going to go backwards. You're going to use the sum and difference identities, and you're just going to go backwards. So, for instance, 31, which formula is sine cosine minus cosine sine? It's the sine formula. Which one? The positive formula or the negative formula? The negative formula. So alpha is 4x and cosine is 3x. So the sine of 4x minus 3x is just the sine of x. Sine of x is the answer. Yep. Okay. All right. Then number 35. 35 says, what is the tangent of alpha minus beta if the sine of alpha is negative 3 over 5 and the sine of beta is negative 24 over 25, and A belongs to quadrant 4 and beta belongs to quadrant 3. So I need to build two triangles. The first triangle is in quadrant 4, and it's built off of angle alpha. So here's the triangle, negative 3 and 5. Is everybody all right with that? What is the other side length? Would be 4. I might not need that, but there it is. Now the other angle is in quadrant 3, and it's negative 24 and 25. So if I wanted the other one, 25 squared minus 24 squared, that's not going to work. So 25 squared minus 24 squared. And then I need to take the square root. This is just the Pythagorean theorem. The answer, 7. Okay. Now what do I do? Well, now I need to work on this. Do we want to use the tangent formula, or do we want to use the sine formula and then divide it by the cosine formula? Maybe I'll show you both ways so you can see which one you want. So if I did sine of alpha minus beta over cosine of alpha minus beta, then I'm going to get sine alpha cosine beta plus or minus cosine alpha sine beta. Okay? And then I'm going to divide that by cosine alpha cosine beta plus or minus plus sine alpha sine beta. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Now I use the triangles to figure it out. The sine of alpha is negative 3 over 5 times the cosine of beta is 7 over 25. Negative 7 over 25. And now I put minus. The cosine of alpha is 4/5. And the sine of beta is negative 24 over 25. Any questions about that? Right, now we move on to the next one. Cosine of alpha is 4/5. Cosine of beta is negative 7 over 25. And then plus the sine of alpha is negative 3/5. And the sine of beta is negative 24 over 25. All right, so on top, this gives me 21. And this gives me positive 96. And they're both divided by 125. Does everybody see that? 5 times 25 is 125, and 5 times 25 is 125. So I get 125 as my denominator in the numerator. And I have positive 21 plus 96, which is 117. Okay? So in the denominator, I also get a denominator of 125. Okay? And then 4 times 7 is negative 28. And negative 3 times negative 24, 48, 72. Negative. So negative 28 minus 72 is 100. Right? Negative. Now what? You just do a Tom Hansen, you flip and times it. Just flip and times it. Which all that's going to do is delete the 125s, and I get 117 over negative 100. That would be the answer, I hope. Okay, let me show you the other way to do it. Let's get rid of all these. And this. And all of those. So I'll leave that answer. All right. The other way is to use the tangent formula, which says tangent alpha minus tangent beta. So tangent alpha minus tangent beta, and then 1 plus tangent alpha tangent beta. Did I do that right? We're using the subtraction formula, so we need to use the subtraction on top and the addition on bottom. Okay. This may or may not be easier. It just kind of depends on the problem. So what is the tangent of alpha? Oh, sorry, this is a 4 still. The tangent of alpha is going to be negative 3/4 minus, what is the tangent of beta? Negative 24 over negative 7, which is just 24 over 7. Okay, we're going to divide that by 1 plus negative 3/4 times 24 over 7. So on top, I need a common denominator. This one gets a 4, and this one gets a 7. So I have negative 21 minus 96 over 28. And that is 117. So negative 117 over 28. In the denominator, I get 1 minus 72 over 28. I need a common denominator. 28 over 28. Oh, that's an... I missed a sign somewhere. Where did I mess up my sign? Negative 3/4. Uh-oh, maybe I missed a sign on the other one. Yeah, I must have made a mistake on the other one. Whatever. We're going to call that a plus. So I messed up, but 28 plus 72 is 100 over 28. So this is 100 over 28. Over here it's 100 over 28. And then you flip and multiply, and the 28s cancel, and I get negative 117 over 100, which is what I got the other way. That actually was pretty easy. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes it's easier just to do the sine over the cosine. Okay. All right, get to work.